Take 2. Phil Wolter, welcome back.
Thank you, Pete.
I think this is our third podcast. Third podcast about your adventures in Antarctica.
Correct.
Now, luckily for us, these podcasts are not going in any sequential order.
Not at all.
So I think this time we're looking at you travelling back to Australia after being down south, really down south, for over a year.
Well over a year, yes.
This is the end of your great adventure.
This is the end.
How are you feeling?
There was a mixture.
Yep.
You felt elation that you were going home to be with your family and see your friends and get into warm climates. Great. But there was also, by this time, you'd grown fond of Mawson, particularly the last summer and the time I was there. I thought, I don't mind this at all, but, you know.
Do you think that you dreaded going back to Australia in the middle of summer? Because it's now back to the summertime, isn't it? So you've gone from minus 10 degrees or minus 30 degrees Celsius and then hit Australia at, plus 25 to 30.
That thought did cross my mind. In fact, as I found out sometime later, we went up to Brisbane and I had to leave.
It's too hot.
Yeah, I'd so acclimatised to the cold.
Yeah.
And even when I was in Canberra in winter, it still felt warm to me.
As you explained in the first episode, it's a complicated withdrawal from Antarctica. The whole team doesn't go at once. They go half a team and they go back and then they come back and get the other half a team and then it's a complicated swap.
Yes, it's not completely straightforward and each team gets half and half.
Yeah.
Half on the first voyage down to the boat and the other half on the second.
Yeah. So your voyage now is to go straight back to Melbourne from Mawson Base. Is that right?
No.
Oh. Okay.
There was a few little interludes on the way back.
Interludes.
Interludes.
I see. So
one in particular comes to mind.
Okay. Now, which one was that one?
This was the time we visited an extinct volcano on the way back.
Oh. You expect on a continent the size of Antarctica there'll be quite a few. That one where they had that accident in New Zealand, with the New Zealand side, Mount Erebus?
Mount Erebus is correct.
Now, was that an accident because of the weather, or was it just they didn't see the volcano and just ran into it?
It was a combination of a number of effects, that particular one.
Mm-hmm.
But the Antarctic illusion was the big one.
Oh, you mean the glare from the white? Is that a whiteout?
No, it wasn't a whiteout. In fact, Mount Erebus is the only active volcano in the Antarctic, and that made the mountain warm, and the ice actually stuck to the mountain. It was completely snow-covered.
Yeah. And
went white, and the plane was flying straight at it because of an error in their navigation.
Is that because you're so far south, your magnetism's gone a bit wonky?
No, they pre-programmed, but in those days they did it by hand, the navigation pathway.
Mm.
And it was supposed to go over the mountain, but the pilot got a bit bravado and decided to go lower to give the passengers a better view.
Because it was basically a joyride, wasn't it?
It was a joyride, yes.
You'd fly down to Antarctica, do a circuit, and then fly back again.
Yes.
That's really what happens.
That was what was supposed to happen.
And it just didn't.
It didn't that particular time. They were heading straight at the mountain and they could not see that mountain.
But this was a few years after your expedition, wasn't it?
Yes, I think it was very early 80 or late 79.
Okay, that was a real tragedy and obviously put a dampening on the tourist side of just going for a joy flight down to Antarctica.
It stopped it in its tracks.
Because it was becoming a bit of a blasé thing. Oh, you just get on a plane and fly down for a few hours.
The very first tourist trip to the Antarctic was in 1976, the year we were there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Dick Smith hired it to fly over, I think it was the same area, Mount Erebus, if I remember right, which is the other side of the Antarctic to where we were.
We're south of Madagascar at Mawson Base.
Yeah.
When you say the other side, you're talking about on the South American side? If that's because it's hard because it's down the bottom and you sort of think, here's Antarctica and there's South Africa, there's South America and there's Australia.
I can't remember.
We'll
look at the atlas.
Put the map when you put the map on.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's leave Mount Erebus, which was an absolute tragic disaster, and we're moving to where again? The
Gaussberg.
Is that on the mainland?
It is on the mainland.
Okay.
Yes, and it was about 5 days travel out from Mawson on the boat.
Which way, north or east or west?
Heading east.
So going back towards Australia.
Yes.
Okay. So it's basically a volcano east of Mawson on the way home.
That's right.
So why bother? What's so great about it?
It's an extinct volcano. As far as I'm aware, it's the only other volcano in the Antarctic.
Which is extraordinary with a continent that size, yeah.
But yeah, well, we could go into the geology. We won't do that here.
Okay, sorry.
However, it's a very nice conical mountain shape, being a volcano.
You mean it's a perfect looking volcano?
Yes. And there was a plateau area at the base of it, which is right on the coast, which made a nice landing area.
For the choppers?
For the choppers.
So did you take the boat? The ship?
Oh, yes, we're on the ship heading home.
And they just anchored off somewhere?
They anchored just offshore a bit. We got on the choppers and flew in to Gaussberg.
Yeah, and what was the reason? There's a real obvious reason, not just a touristy, we're going home, let's go and look at the latest icebergs.
Several reasons. One, the geologists, they were itching to check out the geology of the place. Mm-hmm. The other geophysicist was going to do gravity readings there.
What, drop a ball and go, oh, that's lighter than...
A little bit more sophisticated.
But that's it. Oh, it's
and
gravity.
me, the geophysicist, was doing magnetic readings. And there was a particular reason why I was doing the magnetic readings there.
So magnetic readings, just because the compass obviously would deviate more in that area than normal because of the minerals in the actual volcano?
Well, that actually did have quite a significant part, but the biggest reason is the angle of the magnetic north to true north, which at Gaussberg was, in 1977, 81 degrees. Here it's about 3 degrees.
How big was the team? You know, you obviously got 2 choppers to play with, so that's 6 people.
Yeah, we ended up bringing, I think it might have been 8 people.
I think it was 8, based on my notes.
8. And 4 of those were the Bureau of Mineral Resource people, or 5 actually, 5 of us, 3 geologists, 2 geophysicists, and a few others. You just landed in the helicopters like something out of the Vietnam movie, dumped all your stuff, put your tents up, and then sort of have a cup of tea. No.
Okay, have beer?
No.
Coffee?
I got straight into work.
Okay, so you're setting up your equipment to measure. You're doing magnetism.
Yep.
Other people are doing mineralogy. Various things. So it's a day's out. It's a working day.
It's a working day and the next day.
Okay.
Or part of the next day.
Right.
So yeah, we're busy that day.
So what's the sort of size of this volcano? I mean, we're talking 1,000 metres. We're talking how big?
Gaussberg's 370 metres high and about 1.5 kilometres wide. It's also about 1,250 metres east of Mawson. So it was relatively small, but when you're at the base of it, it looks, quite a decent size.
And what sort of material it's made of? Is it just rock, or is it just sort of dried?
It'd probably be basaltic material.
So it's fairly fragile. Is that the word?
Well, over the time since it became extinct, there'd been a lot of crumbling. It was all scree.
Mm. So how long would we have said it was being extinct for?
It was last active about 55,000 years ago.
So it's like basically a pimple on the side of Antarctica.
Something like that.
Popped out and then just stopped.
Yeah, so I don't know, it could have been active for, who knows, many thousands of years, typical volcanoes, and then they just go extinct. So
the vessel has anchored off the coast, or close to the coast. You've flown, is it inland or is it on the edge of the coast?
On the edge.
On the edge, so it's okay. And it's what, a 5-minute flight or something like that?
Something like that,
You dropped in, they take off, you camp the night.
Yeah.
You've done all your measurements, you've done all that sort of stuff, so what do you expect to do now? You're just going to collect everything up and disappear, or are you going to get some mischief, as it were?
This is late in the day, I finished my readings. But there was a reason. There was a reason why I was there, and I was actually following the footsteps of a geophysicist who was there in 1912.
1912?
Yes.
Okay, wow, that's... So in the 70s, 1912 is like 50 odd years before.
Yeah.
56, that's quite good.
Yeah.
So there hasn't been anybody else there since then?
Almost, we'll get to that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's one of those things that you sort of, people make a reading and then you see it on the chart and then you look at the date, 1912, and it hasn't been sort of updated on a regular basis.
So what happened, 1912 was the year Douglas Mawson arrived at Commonwealth Bay to do scientific survey work all around the area.
Yeah.
It happened to be the same year that Scott perished? Coming back from the South Pole.
It was a big race to get to the South Pole, really, wasn't it?
Yes, and there was Roald Amundsen was also going for it.
Yeah.
Now, he did it all correctly and survived.
Well, he took dogs, didn't he?
He took dogs.
And
Scott tried to take ponies, and that just didn't work.
Ponies, really? Ponies?
Yeah. So they had to manhaul
Yeah.
everything nearly the whole way, and of course it became too much for them on the way back.
So let's just go to the South Pole from the edge of the continent. What sort of distance are we talking about?
Oh, I think we're talking about 1,800 miles, something.
That's one way.
Yeah, one way.
And then, wow, so it's a huge...
From where he went, it probably would have been less than that. Yeah. He would have picked a spot closer, the continent closer to the South Pole.
So realistically, at that time, 1912, there's a lot of stuff going on in Antarctica. You've got Scott, Amundsen, this survey that was going on at this volcano, and obviously Mawson setting up bases at different places.
Yeah, well, Mawson set up 2 bases, the one at Commonwealth Bay, and he set up a western base. And this is the one we're dealing with, because it was from the western base that a party of Ninnis, Frank Hurley, the famous photographer, and a geophysicist called Eric Webb,
Yep.
They set off from this western base, and they were chasing the South Magnetic Pole.
That's the actual pole, as opposed to
the actual pole.
Because there's a magnetic pole and there's an actual geographic South Pole, isn't there?
And they were chasing the magnetic one.
Because that moves around.
It does. It drifts.
Yeah, it drifts.
Continually drifting. Now, at the moment, the South Magnetic Pole is actually offshore from the Antarctic. But...
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a long way off. But in those days, it was still onshore.
In 1912?
In 1912.
Right.
But they never made it. They were wise. They reached a western limit and said, we dare not go any further, otherwise we're going to get into trouble.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of saying we're going to get to that pole, come what way.
Yeah. Did they have dogs and things like that as well at that time, do you think?
I don't think they had dogs, but I'd have to check on that.
It's just one of those things that's another expedition, and they said, we've reached our point of no return, and we either come back or we drop dead.
Yeah. Now, this was called Mawson's Western Party, and they're very most...
Boo, pop, party time.
The westernmost point they got was Gaussberg, right where we were.
Oh, right, okay. So they started from Commonwealth Bay, which is... Let's just locate it now. So you're talking
Commonwealth Bay was far to the east.
Yeah, but that's south of where?
Under the Indian Ocean. So they were heading west.
Yep.
We were heading east.
Yep.
And
they met at
different
pimple on the continent.
Yes.
All right, so you're doing your magnetic things. What else are you looking for? Well, you've got magnetism, you've got geology, you've got mineralogy.
Gravity.
So, you've done your bit, you've done your thing, you've done your, what's the word? You've done your connection with a time.
That's
thing.
right. And
so
that was intriguing.
What else did you get up to? Now, somebody else told me you guys got up to a bit of naughty things.
Wow.
Well.
There was no women down there, I might remind you.
Well, I know, there's lots of penguins though.
So we'll scrub that bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And seals.
Finished for the day. It was, getting it late on in the evening.
And late meaning it's midnight, it's still something.
Well, it's not quite, but it might have been 11 o'clock at night or something.
Yeah.
Pack up. I left the instruments out, I think, because the weather was all right. We camped for the night on this plateau at the base of Gaussberg. Now, here's the thing. There was a rumour that we'd heard.
A rumour?
A rumour.
How do you hear a rumour on one of those isolated continents in the world?
The rumour was
that
up the top of that mountain, Gaussberg, there was a record of where Eric Webb and his crew had been.
Ah, so back in 1912?
In 1912.
Ah.
Nobody knew for sure if this was correct or not.
Oh, so that was like a time capsule or something they left there as a note.
Well, I'll tell you what it was.
Okay.
Because the next morning, where I was going to do another set of magnetic readings, the biologist that was with us, his name was Roger Barker, said, how would you like to go up to the top and we'll see if that canister is really there? And I thought, all right.
Because you guys are fit, healthy young guys. You know, a mountain like that, it's about 1,000
Not only
feet.
that, we were
Straight up there like rabbits.
we were also indestructible. Don't forget.
That's right, indestructible, yeah.
In the early 20s, who isn't?
Yeah.
Right.
And you just be a couple, be a 20-minute.
So I said, yeah, okay, but we wouldn't. You didn't tell the others in case they said no, don't do it. That would never do. So off we went. We climbed this mountain. Now it was.
Weren't you told categorically not to go up there?
Nobody said not to.
Oh, okay. They just said, no, it's not a good idea. But that
well,
that's not a not to.
That's not what we were there for.
Okay, right.
Anyway, me and Roger went up.
So there's only two of you.
Just two of us went.
Okay.
And there was scree loose stuff, and we were trying to climb, and it felt like every step up was 2 steps backwards. Not quite that bad.
Mm.
And it took us probably something like 2 hours to get to the summit. And
so we're not talking a big mountain, are we? I mean, 2 hours.
Not massive.
2 hours is okay, but you said it was
Yeah.
pretty hard going.
It was hard going, not because we had trouble climbing the slope. We weren't sort of going up cliffs or anything, but because of this loose scree.
Yeah.
But we got there, and there was what we call a pile of rocks.
Not cans.
Not cans.
A can. Yeah.
Not
Pile of
big.
rocks is like
Pile of rocks is a can.
Yeah, it's it's an
Right.
indicator, isn't it?
And right at the base of that, just tucked under a rock, there was a canister.
Oh wow! I mean, after all those years, 50 years in the
Yes.
come rain, hail. Well, maybe not hail, but shine. The whole thing still hidden there.
Still hidden there.
Wow.
So naturally, we got it, opened it up, and we had another surprise.
Oh.
There was not one, but there was 2 parchments in there.
2?
2.
Oh my God! There's aliens or something. It's coming along
Just
and left a
about.
message.
It turned out a couple of years before we were there, the Russians got there.
Bastards. Always Russians.
And they decided they would write a record of what they were doing there. And they put it in that Eric Webb's original canister with his original parchment.
And when you find something like that, the actual canister is quite an oldie worldy kind of thing. That was probably the original canister.
It was the original canister. And you can see the stains, at least on the original parchment, because of the age and the fact that the canister wasn't 100%
sealed,
weatherproof.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, Roger had brought a brand new canister with him.
Because he knew there was one up there.
Yeah.
Oh.
He was smart enough to figure out if it was up there, probably that canister is getting a bit old.
But wasn't that a normal thing for people in making these sort of things, to leave a can, a rock,
That was a normal
and put a message in there or something like that?
But we weren't sure if they'd been up there. And if they had been up there, weren't sure that they actually did that.
Yeah.
Turns out, yes, they had. So, we had to do something ourselves. Now, we had pen and paper with us, so we wrote down as neatly as we could
I bet your
what
handwriting
we were
was
doing
really
there.
bad compared to this.
We wrote that all, signed it, wrapped it up, took the parchments out, the other 2, put them in the new canister along with ours, sealed it all up.
So it's 3 now. 3.
Now, there was 3 parchments
Yep.
in that canister. Put it back where we found it. Right beside it, we put the original one.
Oh, okay.
But before we put them in there, we photographed them.
Yeah.
Because, this
And
is
the
a
irony
story.
is, here we are talking back in 2022. So that's nearly 50 years ago that you put yours in there, and 50 years ago that they put theirs in there. So that's quite a step of, time.
You
Because
think about
76,
it,
that's nearly
1912 to 2022,
yeah,
it's
that's
110 years.
110 years. That's right. So it's been 2 lots of 50 years. How I run? Did you put your name, Philip Wolter, Esquire?
What's 12 from 76?
64. No, 58. 50, I don't know, 64. You can't tell me that on camera. I can't do that. That's too hard.
12 from 76
Is 66, 64.
That's how many years I was there after Eric Webb.
So you were there, actually it's been longer since Eric Webb went there. Eric
Yes.
Webb's about 50 years and you're 60 something. No, that's the other way around, I'm sure it is.
It's the other way around.
Yeah, that's right.
So much for the maths lesson.
Yeah,
for
so
today.
much for that, right.
So-
Okay, so you're on the top of this mountain. What temperature is it? And how's the wind?
I don't recall a lot of wind there.
But it is summertime in Antarctica.
It is summertime, so it would have been a bit
It's
cool.
bearable.
Yeah. Now, bearing in mind, I had been through a winter, and the summer survey work I'd had not long before, we'd been to some frightfully cold areas. So for me, and
It was nothing.
It was nothing.
Yeah.
Roger, who'd come from Australia, being one of the summer tourists, as we call them,
Yeah.
might have felt it a bit more.
Oh, just a bit.
Yeah.
So here you are at the top of this mountain, or this volcano. What's the view like? I mean, you've got a 360 view of the whole surrounding there, looking down at your colleagues. It must be quite a breathtaking. Did you take any photos?
I probably have.
Actually, you did take some photos, but you took it off the parchment.
Yes, that was our primary interest, not the scenery around there.
God.
But we did look down at a certain view. We looked down and we saw all our crew down at that plateau, and there was a lot of activity. Then it dawned on us, all that activity, packing up stuff, that means the choppers were coming in to remove us from the plateau back to the boat. And here we were up the top of the mountain.
No, oopsie. Oh, so you've done all that. You've done this great historic thing. You're top of the world. Now, just before you realise you're in trouble because you're not where you're supposed to be, what's looking inside the crater look like? Do you look in the crater? Have a look.
No crater. It was conical. I think the crater probably had eroded away thousands of years before, and it was just sort of a conical shape.
Just hill.
Yeah.
Nothing exciting. No steam coming off.
No, afraid not.
It wasn't even warm to touch.
No.
Okay. All right. So you're looking down, and you see there's a lot of these little ants running around, getting active, and you realise, the choppers are coming. Now, what do you have to do?
Get down just as quick as we can.
Right. So that sounds easier going down than it is going up because of the scree being all rubbly.
But it was still, a bit of a journey to get down.
Yeah.
I had a bright idea.
Not another one.
Another bright idea.
Oh, God.
I thought if I can get on, because there was ice bands on this mountain, I thought if I can get on the edge of one, I can actually slide down the ice.
On your bum?
Yeah, but making sure by staying to the edge I could use the rocks themselves.
Oh, like a break.
Myself.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
That was the theory.
That's the theory, okay.
So I did that, and then I started going faster, and I was drifting a little bit away from the edge and getting faster and faster. Oh, geez, I am in trouble here.
Yeah.
And I was really in trouble. But I managed to steer myself back to the edge where I could use the rocks.
So you put your foot in the rocks and just as a brake. Oh, that's very, very inventive. So you're on your bottom and your feet, and you just like a sled, or you just
like a sled, pretty much.
And then you just start. So you're trying to heal that way.
trying to steer myself back.
Yeah.
Which I managed to do, but I hit those hard rocks.
You start bouncing.
Hard,
yeah. And it's brittle.
I hit it hard.
It's quite brittle rocks, aren't they?
Oh yeah.
It's not dense rock. It's brittle and shardy. Is it sort of?
Wasn't shardy.
Yeah.
Because it'd been weathered. But I mean, they were decent size, probably about that round. About a foot in diameter, that sort of thing. Yeah. Maybe less. And when I hit them at the speed I was going,
so we're talking incline about that much. Sorry, for the camera, that much.
Yeah.
Or we're talking about that sort of. It's going down. It's
somewhere between 30 to 40 degrees.
Oh, so that's a good incline.
Yeah, it was a good incline.
Just like snow, it's like sandboarding, isn't it? You did get up to the top. Yay!
I wasn't yaying when I hit those rocks, I could tell you. I hit them hard.
Yeah.
And I sort of checked, nothing's broken. I had scratches and bruises and stuff like that.
So how long did it take you to get down? I mean, it took 2 hours to get up.
And we were a lot quicker getting down.
Yeah, but
I gained a bit of time with that very short sliding, but I wasn't going to touch that ice again. And I
once you got off, that's it. You just okay, this is much.
You'll go down the conventional way. Well, as it turned out, we both got back there before the choppers got there, which meant I had enough time to quickly pack up all my magnetic gear and get it in their cases and whatnot.
Yeah. And how did your friend get down? He went down the same way, or just sort of He
didn't use the ice.
You idiot! What are you doing?
He went down the proper way. Right. Just
so you're going. Hey, I'm still here, mate. I've got down. But would they have left you Would they have,
Oh, probably not.
did they have a little checklist? Because, this is back in the 70s where, oh, well, we didn't know it was not there.
I think they might have figured out we were absent.
Okay.
But if we were up that mountain and the choppers were waiting for us, we would have been Mr. and Mr. Unpopular.
It would be cool if the choppers flew up there and just jumped on the chopper.
Yeah, well, they're not going to do that.
Because they had to put a lot of gear in that chopper. They got a three-man
yeah.
chopper with a pilot, that's 4.
Yeah.
And they've obviously got to be able to stack a bit of gear in there.
Yeah, all my gear, some of my gear was actually strapped on the side, like the big tripod I had and stuff like that.
Okay, so you got down.
Yeah, we got down in time, got the gear packed in time.
Now, who's the chief of the expedition of this lot? Is there a bit of a chief there? Is somebody running the show? Or are you just a bunch of scientists doing whatever you've got to do, your own job?
Bureau of Mineral Resources, senior geologist by the name of Bob Tingy.
Oh. So had he noticed you guys had nicked off somewhere?
Yeah, he came charging up.
Was he trying to chase you or just sort of after you got back?
After we got back.
Only 2 of you?
Only 2 of us went up there. Yeah, he was pretty miffed because I should have been there doing magnetic readings. Instead I was venturing up the top of this mountain. But the reason I wasn't worried about not doing them is because that night before I got a really good set of reading. This morning's ones would have been a set of redundancies to...
Oh. I would have to hold on that one. Here you are. You've come down the mountain. You're a bit bumped and bruised.
Yes.
The chief, Mr.
Tingy.
Mr. Tingy, must have been very upset with you lot.
He was a bit upset.
It's not very professional, is it?
You
didn't even tell anybody. I mean, think about it. You're up on a mountain. You could have disappeared off the face of the earth. It'd be something like a picnic out of hanging rock.
Didn't I tell you that I'm indestructible at that age?
I know, but you need to show the authority that A, you're going, even though you weren't allowed to. So you're in a quandary. Anyway, you're back now.
We're back.
You've got your band-aids on, sticking up your plaster, your sore foot and everything else. I'm sure he's quite ropeable, and he will deal with you when you get back to the ship.
Yeah, sort of.
So you said, yes, boss, because, you're young, 23, 24-year-olds, acting like school kids.
I didn't care because I'd done it. It was done.
Yeah.
We had the record that had been done.
And it was an amazing thing. They should have done it anyway.
I would have thought so.
Because, when you think of that, that's a 50-year hiatus from the last one. Yeah. And, that's something to add to the...
It was part of history.
Yeah.
We were part of history as far as I was concerned.
You said that then, but I bet you didn't say that when you didn't realise where you'd gone to. So now you've moved, you've been choppered back to the ship.
Yep.
And obviously you've got some seriously big news to tell anybody. You've taken photographs of this thing.
Yep.
And so you obviously got some sort of developing lab.
We didn't have a developing lab, but what we could do is just get a projector. We found one somewhere on the boat, and we could view the film.
Oh, you put it on a film? I thought you took a stills.
Yeah, it was a still.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you had to develop that, didn't you?
How did we do that? We must have... I can't remember how we did it. We must have developed it.
Because you'd have... It's not very big. You've got a couple of bushes.
We managed to somehow get it developed. Can't remember how.
Okay.
And then we could put in the projector and then have a good look at what we'd taken a photo of.
Yeah.
Now, Bob had calmed right down, and now
he'd had a few beers by then.
Yeah, exactly.
He understood the significance of it.
Yes, he did fully understand.
Did he know that? Did he hear of the rumour?
Oh yeah, everybody knew there was a rumour that was up there.
Yeah.
Now we'd confirmed it. We had photos, and now we're poring over it. We couldn't translate the Russian one. Now in those days, we didn't have wars in Ukraine and things like that. Everybody shared all their information quite freely between the bases. If you wanted information from another base, you got it. But in fact, I don't even know to this day exactly what they were doing there, just that they were there.
They heard a rumour.
Yeah. I'll find a Russian sometime to translate for me.
Okay, so you've somehow developed these photographs.
Yeah.
What was written on them?
What was written was why they were there.
And they were there for you to do magnetic readings, like you said.
That was one of the reasons. Yep. The others, Frank Hurley, he's a famous photographer. He was there and took a lot of photos, as you might suspect. And the other guy, what was he? A geologist, I think. He would have done his geology.
I picked up, there's a rock. Oh.
But they were describing what they saw, which was exactly what we saw.
Did you read the language? How was it, could you see it was an older time, a different type of style of writing?
No, a lot of it was technical, geological terms, stuff like that. So after describing the scenery, there was the geology that they saw. So we actually wrote it down because it was hard. There was weathering that obscured some of the writing. You had to look very closely to see it. So that there it is. There's a fairly clear
picture of what they
were doing, easily readable.
So they would have actually left that parchment, whatever it was called, and then they would have still made their own journals once they'd got down and continued on their expedition.
Yeah.
So this was like a snapshot of what they were doing at the time.
That's right.
Right.
Exactly.
And you left yours. You left your snapshot there too.
Yes.
So how did you? So you wrote it on a piece of paper, wrapped it all up, and then put it into another canister, didn't you say?
No, same canister. There's now three parchments in that.
Same canister.
The new canister.
Oh, the new canister. That's what you said. The new canister. And what about the Russian? What did the Russians say? Have you had some vodka off the top of the hill?
Wouldn't surprise me.
But did it look technical? Did they look technical?
I couldn't tell.
Oh.
I can't read Russian.
I know, but you know what I mean. You sort of way it's set out. It's sort of got that sort of technical side.
It was just set out similar to the original one, and we did ours in a similar way, just writing from the top to the bottom. The way we did.
When you're making a technical analysis, there's a certain style, a way.
Yeah, bullet points and all that. No, I don't recall any of that. It was just written in a narrative type style.
Okay. And that's the thing about those time capsule type things. It is a snapshot of that time right there and then. It's like a photograph.
Yes.
It never changes, and yet the next one comes along and you see the changes in terms of colours and styles and things like that. And then you're obviously connecting up with what's actually happening in this environment at that time.
That's right. And whether it's ever been visited again, possibly not.
You forget Antarctica's a huge place, bigger than twice the size of Australia or something.
Yeah, roughly twice the size.
Yeah.
Little under, the land mass is a bit under, about 1.7 to 1.8 times the size of Australia.
Yeah.
When you do the survey work, you do a mixture of, if you can, retrace old pathways, and you do new ones as well to add to the overall.
So overlay it onto the next one.
Yeah.
All right, so we've reached this great place. You got back onto the ship. You've been told off, and now you're a hero.
That's right.
You're a hero, and you've done something to add to the historic record of Antarctica as a continent.
Yeah, a small little teeny weeny bit.
And it's called
Gaussberg.
Gaussberg.
German.
Yeah. Or is it Austrian?
Well, it could be.
Germans weren't much in I don't think they did much Antarctica work. I don't know. All right, so now you're heading back to Australia.
Well, that's right.
Is that it? You've done
Pretty
it?
much.
You've just done the Gaussberg and now you're heading north?
The boat did a little bit further up the coast. They did a bit of survey work up the edge of the Shackelton Ice shelf. Mm-hmm. Then we headed roughly north or northeast, back to Melbourne.
Warm and sunny Melbourne. Well, thank you, Phil. I think that's another lovely episode that we can add to the chapters that we're making for this series of podcasts.
Correct.
So thank you.
You're very welcome.